So we're gonna look at what makes the minor 7th and the major 7th such amazing chords. There are more 7th combinations. You could have like a minor here and a major there, which sounds very weird. You could start messing with the 5th, and that sounds also weird. These two are like the core 7ths that are gonna be the nicest sounding ones. And okay, so let's just look at the, let's just look at our scale once again. This is the C major. Okay, so what are the notes in our scale? We're gonna have C, we're gonna have D, we're gonna have E, and we're gonna have F, which are just separated by a semitone, and then we're gonna have G, A, and B. You can compare it to here. Yep. So these are major chord, and so the question is, what are the 7ths that we can build? So one thing you will note is that if we have like major 7th, we have the minor 7th, and we have the like dominant. So we begin with 0 for all three. We have our 7th for all of them, but then the major 7th is going to have the 4, same as the dominant, and the dominant minor is going to have a 3, and then the major 7th is going to have the 11, whereas the minor is going to have the 10, and so does the dominant. And so this is going to be like a major intervals. Sorry. Yeah, no, that's going to be that, right? And some of these are going to be minor intervals. It's kind of like a +3, whereas this is like a +4. All right. And for this case, I'm going to change the color so that it's a little bit more visible. So these are blue are going to be the +4, and the minor is going to be +3. And so C, I can go to E, and that's my major, that's +4. And from E, I can go to G, but that's a +3. A minor third interval. From G, I can get to B, that's going to be major. And from B, I can get to D, which is going to be minor, right? So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. So that's minor. From D, I can get to F. That's 1, 2, 3. That is also minor. So that's one of the weird things about this, because from F, I can get to A with 4, and from A, I can get to C back with 3. And so as you can see, we can build everything nicely. So we have a lot of times where the blue and the orange alternate each other. And what we're going to end up having is that we have C major. We're going to have G major. And we're going to have, so if we look at G, that's blue, orange, forget I said anything, that we don't have G major, we have the G dominant, right? Because it goes blue, orange, orange, that's our dominant chord. F, we do have F major, because we have blue, orange, blue, orange. Whereas E, D, and A are going to be minor. So E is going to be orange, blue, orange. D is going to be minor because it's going to be orange, blue, orange. A is going to be minor because it's orange, blue, orange. And B is going to be diminished because it's like what we call diminished seventh, because it's like going orange, orange, blue. If it had gone orange, 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 it would be another type of diminished seventh chord. But as you can see, most of our chords are going to be either major or minor sevenths. There's going to be a couple of weird ones, but we'll ignore them for now. Yeah. Okay. And so what is fun about the major sevenths is a lot of things, but one of them is if we look at the major seventh, it's going to be like 0, 4, 7, 11, and the minor 7, it's going to be 0, 3, 7, 10, using the same notation as before. So that's going to be our blue intervals that are like plus 4s. We also have a blue interval here, whereas we have plus 3s that are alternating. And so one thing we can quickly do with major seventh chords and minor seventh chords is like expand them, for example, with a plus 3, and we would have like a 14, and also a 14 here if we expand it with like a plus 4. And so these are no longer seventh chords, these are like 11th chords because we have the ninth chord because we have the ninth. But another thing you will notice is that both of these are made of stacks of fifths, which is quite fun, right? So if we play, so let's stop playing the scales and start playing some chords. So this is the major chord, and this is the minor chord, 0, 3, 7, 10. If we play them back to back, all that changes is this second pair of, so the third and the seventh are always the same. They're always a fifth apart, but they just change a little bit when going from a major seventh to a minor seventh. And the other thing that you will have noticed is that we can go kind of from starting from 0, we get a major seventh, but then starting from 4, we get a minor seventh, right? So that's the plus 4, plus 3, plus 4, plus 3, plus 4, plus 3. So let's see how that sounds. So we go from a major seventh to a minor one, but the second time is by 4. And so you see that those two chords have the same 3 notes over here, but one of them has this one and the other one has this one. And so that's a movement of chords that is quite nice because they share a lot of notes in common. And we can do exactly the same with a minor. And instead of going like forward, we could go backwards, right? And so the question is, what happens if we continue doing precisely that? What happens if we just kind of like go plus 4, plus 3, plus 4, plus 3, and so on and so forth? And what's going on is that we're going to go through, if we start with D minor, we go through all of the notes in our scale until we get to B diminished, so to this B. And we go back to D, except we go back to D with a minor third, which is what we began with. So the next step would not be to take the orange, it would be to take the blue one and getting to F sharp. And from F sharp, we would take the minor interval to A. And from A, we're arriving with the minor, so we need to exit with a major. And we were getting to like C sharp. And so we would continue going on, and we actually will go through all of the 12 notes twice, once arriving with a minor interval and once arriving with a major interval. And this is what I like to call the circle of thirds. So if the circle of fifths is navigating all the notes by jumping by a fifth, and it's what we did here at the very beginning. We created all the notes by using the circle of fifths. I don't know if we actually heard the circle of fifths, so I have it over here. This is what the circle of fifths sounds like. So it is quite nice sounding. But what we are going to hear now is going to be the circle of thirds, except I'm also going to play them as so you can see here that's the minor chord followed by the major chord. So I'm going through the circle of thirds in this direction. So I'm starting with a minor chord, and then I'm thinking, well, what if we had like a -4 here and a +4 here, and I'll move to this chord over here. And this is just making sure that we go through all of them without actually just going away from the piano. And observe how, well, we know how these work. They're always a fifth apart, and there's 2 of them. And when we shift, we just are moving 1 note at a time. So let's actually play it and make sure the other one doesn't play. And we're back to the beginning. And so the circle of thirds is going to go through all C major, C minor, C sharp, sorry, probably on the other direction, C minor, C major, C sharp minor, C sharp major, and so on. So there's 24 of these, there's 12 notes, and we have minor and major. Whereas the circle of fifths goes through the 12 notes only, without having the notion of like having majors or minors. And so that is pretty cool. The question is, why is this pretty cool? Well, as we mentioned, we have here our scale, but it's always fun to ask, well, how can we get outside of our scale? And as soon as you start thinking about that, well, then you could just go anywhere. And that is not great, because you want to think about things that actually make more sense. And so you want to find ways of going outside of the scale that make sense with the way you're doing music. One of them is going to parallel modes, for example. So instead of going to C major, we borrow things from C minor. But another one is to use this circle of thirds to kind of escape from the scale. So we can continue moving on the scale through the circle of thirds, and then we can escape the circle of we can escape the scale through the circle of thirds. Something similar can happen to the circle of fifths. So these would be our scale, our C major scale. But by moving through this scale, we can move onto like other parts of the, we can exit the scale and borrow things from outside the scale by moving along the circle of fifths as well.